Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and welcome back to Jalen Talk Sports. Today, we're going to be discussing a player that your Eastern Conference team should trade for by the trade deadline. The first team on our list, the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are a very interesting team because the talent is very evident, but how is it being executed? You saw they went through a cold patch without RJ Barrett, and now he's back. They've won back to back games, and I've really cued in on two issues: Emmanuel quickly and Jakob Pertl. These two players will hold the Raptors back from getting to where I want them to go, which is the championship. And I think they need a point guard or a center in order to get to that point. Emmanuel quickly is not a point guard, and I think it's very obvious now. He is an off-ball player, and he shouldn't really have the ball in his hand, making those type of decisions. You need a point guard. LaMelo Ball, I think he's the perfect guy to do that for you. He's 6'7". Don't do the joke. He's 6'7". He's athletic. He's a good playmaker. He's a good scorer. And I think if LaMelo is truly playing for a competitive team, you can get him to really lock in on a defensive end too. Because with someone of his length, he can be a great defender if he wants to be. Nick Claxton fills that other need at center. I think Jakob Pertl is a liability to the Raptors. He's constantly injured. He has no jump shot, and he's very slow. I think getting a guy like Nicholas Claxton fixes those direct issues. He's athletic. He's a good pick and roll player, and he's a really good defender. I think what the Raptors need is an athletic center and not a slow, burly guy that you have to take out in the closing moments of the game because he can't shoot free throws. Next team, Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics have been a pleasant surprise this year because you'd say without Jason Tatum, they'd struggle. But they're doing well. They're doing extremely well. And I think the biggest issue lies in the center position. They lost Al Horford, and now they start Quetta or whatever his name is. I think that's how you say his name. Quetta. You don't want that being your center. I see go out and get Jaren Jackson Jr., who's currently on a $23 million a year contract, and you get your big three in place for next year, and then you go out and you go win another championship. If not, if you want to shoot a little lower, just get a guy who's serviceable and could do the job how you want them to do it. You go with a guy like Zubac. The Clippers are rotting, to say the least. I don't even know the right word to use. But that team is falling apart, and they need to blow it up themselves. And how do you blow it up? You trade away your pieces. You can get a decent return for Zubac, and I think he slots into this lineup exceptionally. 76ers. The 76ers need a power forward. You could say maybe go get a center because Embiid, you don't know how much longer he has in the league. You don't know how much longer he'll be able to contribute. He's kind of a liability. But if you can keep Joel Embiid healthy, I think the best piece that you can get is a power forward. Paul George has his spurts of talent. You have McCain, you have Edgecombe, and you have Maxey, who are really good backcourt players. So then that glaring hole is the power forward spot. And these two guys, Sohan and Eason, they're on really good teams and they're decent players who just don't get minutes. And I think they slot perfectly into the 76ers. They're good defenders, they're good playmakers and shooters. Not Sohan, he can't shoot. But they're a perfect piece to slot into that lineup and just stay for the foreseeable future because they're still young. Brooklyn Nets. As you can see in the bottom right, I said they need everything. The Nets are really, 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 really bad at basketball. And when you're bad, you can kind of do whatever you want to do. You can build through the draft, or you can Try to use your young players to get better players. Um, and you can see there in the video that I said they should trade Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. When you're in the Nets position, you want to be in that role where you can get a top five pick. But it doesn't hurt to get talented young players who just need an opportunity. This whole time that Kuminga and Rob Dillingham have been in the league, I've just been waiting for them to get their chance. Kuminga could have left and went to the Kings. That didn't work out. Trade him because he doesn't want to be on the Warriors in the first place. So let him go. I think a Nets team will embrace a player like Kuminga and let Kuminga really develop his offensive game. And then Dillingham. Dillingham needs to get out of Minnesota. If I'm going to see how good this guy is, he needs a chance somewhere else. And I think day one he starts for the Nets. And we see the potential we all believe Rob with the Chefs has. New York Knicks. The New York Knicks could win the championship. And I don't like the Knicks. I don't like hyping up the Knicks. But what I see from this team, they have the talent to win. But their bench can get better. I think the one thing holding them back from that championship will be their bench. That starting lineup, there's really not many flaws that you can find. You can say, yeah, Cat can be a better defender, but they make up for it. They do make up for it. And you saw how they won the NBA Cup, and that usually doesn't translate into anything. But what I believe they need is wings off the bench. And these are two wings that I think you can get at cheap prices. Cam Thomas can drop 24 points a game if he wants to. Imagine having him as your six man. That sounds nice to me. And then Connect. Connect had the potential to be a lottery pick. He was an excellent college player. And then ever since the Lakers fake traded him, everything just hasn't clicked for the guy. The talent is in there. He just needs a new environment. And I think the Knicks is a great place for him to go. Cavaliers. I only have one player for them. I looked at this roster and I said, who do they need? What do they need? And I landed on Nick Richards. Their hole that I'm seeing is the lack of a really good backup big. Because you run Mobley and Jared Allen as your bigs right now in the starting lineup. And then you transition to like Thomas Bryant. You can do better. And I think Nick Richards is a really good insurance and safety option in case any of those guys get hurt. But he's a really good guy to just put in there when they need their rest. Bucks. I know you see these names and you're like, what? They have Giannis. And then they have nobody else. So how are they going to be able to pull this off? I think these are pieces you target if you're trying to trade away Giannis. I think it's time. I think it's time for the Bucks to rebuild. And the Spurs are going to be hesitant to trade away Castle or Harper. Well, one guy I think you can get away from them is De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox and some other pieces could probably get the deal done. And I think De'Aaron Fox is a great place to start if you trade Giannis. He's a very talented player. And, even if the team is going to be bad, that's a good piece to build around and then add to and get pieces that may be better than De'Aaron Fox. And if anything, you keep him for the rest of the season. Off season, you trade De'Aaron Fox for more picks, and then you have a collection of picks. A guy you can build around for the future, though, that you keep around is Chet Holmgren. I think if I'm Sam Presti and the Bucks called me and they said, "I'll give you Giannis, but I want Chet back and some other people," I'm immediately saying yes, take Chet. Chet's not a bad player. Chet's a really good player, but I think what I've seen from him and Wemby, he can't handle that. He can't handle that. And Wemby is just going to get dangerous and more dangerous and more dangerous. And a guy I believe could get in the way of somebody like Wemby is Giannis. Giannis is the key. Giannis will make the Thunder even more unstoppable than they seem right now. Go get Giannis, okay? Both of them need Giannis. Detroit Pistons. They need a secondary piece to Cade other than Duran. I'm not sold on Thompson. I'm not sold on Ivy. I'm not sold on those guys. Trey Murphy. He has the potential to be a star. I think if you put him in the right situation, he can become a star. Not a superstar, but a star. And the Pistons, he fits perfectly on the Pistons. Who do they have playing his position? Tobias Harris, I believe. This is your upgrade on Tobias Harris. And if not, you want to add a front court partner for Duran. You get Jaren Jackson Jr. to play your power forward spot. He's a stretch big and a really good rebounder, and he can block shots. You can become one of those. I hate to use this analogy. Do you remember the Raptors after Kawhi and after Kyle Lowry when they went 6-9 and up? It was like everyone is 6-9 and then there's Fred VanVleet. You can make it better because Cade is like 6'8" and he's your point guard. And then you add Jaren Jackson and you just become really, really big. Really, really big. And that could push the Pistons teams over the edge. They're still number one, I believe, in the East. And that's saying that they're talented enough to run it, but they can get better. You can always get better, and these pieces can make you better. Indiana. I wasn't gonna put a single player for Indiana because they're in a rough spot. Their best player is hurt, and they're not gonna do anything this year. Do you get a piece to help you for when Tyrese comes back, or do you leave it? And I would say probably just leave it. But if there's one guy you can get to address a need that you have, it's Jared Allen. The Pacers lost their center in the offseason, Miles Turner, and they haven't got a replacement. This guy isn't a one for one swap because their skill sets are different. But with Pascal being a stretch four where he can score at all three levels, a guy like Jaron Allen is a perfect complement because they don't occupy the same space. Plus, he's a lob threat, and you have a playmaking point guard. So adding Jared Allen to the equation can do a lot for the Pacers down the line. Washington Wizards. You see him again. You see him again. Rob Dillingham. Bob is not the answer. Rob could be the answer. It feels wrong because I believe in Rob Dillingham and he hasn't shown me anything. But I think he can show me something in the right spot, in the right opportunity, in the right chance he can get the ball in his hand. Imagine Rob and Trey Johnson. That's his name. Trey Johnson, the guy they drafted this year. Bucket getters. Bucket getters. You need people to score the ball. And these two can score the ball. So get Rob Dillingham on the Wizards today. Bulls. This was one of the hardest ones because the Bulls are not a very good team, in my opinion. They have solid pieces, but what direction can you really go if Josh Giddey is your best player? I leave that question in the air for you. But I say if you want to compete a little bit or try to make the playoffs, you get a guy like Michael Porter Jr. or Robert Williams. I think it's time you move off Vucevic. He's getting up there, and I think Rob, they're both on 1 year deals. So you get Rob, you see how he fits, and you keep him if you want to keep him. But he brings a different aspect to the game than Vucevic. He's a defender, he's a rebounder, he's everything that Vucevic isn't. And maybe that's what you need. Michael Porter Jr. was supposed to be the first overall pick in this draft, and he got hurt. And now he's on the Nets, and you're seeing Oh, he's pretty talented. He doesn't swing the rock, but he's pretty talented. He can probably be useful to the Bulls. And when's the last time you had a Michael? He was pretty good, right? Jordan. So maybe Michael's the answer. Maybe Michael's the answer. Heat, DeJounte Murray. I look at the Heat and I see one problem. Point guard. They can get better at point guard. There's nothing wrong with Davion Mitchell. He's a solid player. But think of Davion Mitchell and make him an all-star. And who is that? DeJounte Murray. He's a little bigger, but the skill sets are basically the same. It's just he's better than Davion Mitchell. So imagine getting DeJounte Murray, his defensive skills, his playmaking skills, and then a boost in the scoring aspect. The Heat become a team that can be really sneaky for you. You know, they have Powell, they have Harrell, and they have Adebayo, and then they have Ware. And you throw Murray in there. That's a really good starting lineup. That's a really good starting lineup. And, you know, you lost Scary Terry to his gambling issues. So you need another point guard in there. And I think this is the guy that can push you over the edge a little bit and make you a more serious contender. Charlotte. Domantas Sabonis. So this is something I do if we decide we want to keep LaMelo. You go get a center because that's what they don't have. They have Miles Bridges, they have Brandon Miller, they have Con Canupo. That's a really good foundation. But who's your center? Miles Plumlee? Don't come over here with any of that. So you go and you get an all-star center and a second, third option to LaMelo and Con. This is a perfect piece for you. And I think he's an attainable piece for you. The problem with the center is everyone wants one, but there's not many options that are actually going to improve the teams. Domantas Sabonis is one of those guys who can. Hawks. Anthony Black. I watched Anthony Black play yesterday. And he dropped like 27 points on the Raptors or something. I said, this guy's impressive. I'd like him myself. And I think it's time they move off Trey Young. But imagine Anthony Black and Dyson Daniels together. Imagine it. That would work. That would be exciting. So they're both long, lengthy guards who can defend and play make. Yes, I think they should trade Trey Young for Anthony Black. And you're going to see Trey Young soon. Trey Young, Orlando Magic. Make it happen. I think Suggs is never going to be what you want Suggs to be. I think Anthony Black has the potential to be what you want him to be. But if we're thinking about right now, Trey Young is an option that could push you over the edge. You have Paolo, you have Franz. Can you get better around them? And Trey Young is a piece I think slots in perfectly because he has a deficiency in his game, which is his defense, but he does everything else at a really high level. And I think the Magic can make up for the fact that he can't play defense with the rest of their team. They have solid defenders all around. And Desmond Bain, Paolo can be a really good defender. Carter Jr. is okay. But you can get better than Carter Jr. And that's why I bring up the Montes. If you want to move off Carter Jr. and leave your point guards being Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs, go get Sabonis. Why not? I think the Magic are right there. They're right there. They just need that extra guy, that one extra guy to push them, to push them into that level where I say, this is a serious contender with Tatum in the East or not, with Giannis in the East or not. And you go and you get Sabonis, and I think you can make a real run. With both of these guys, either one, you make a run this year with this Magic team. That's all the teams in the East. And I want you to let me know if you agree with who I think your team should trade for, or if there's another guy that you think your team should get. Let me know. And I'll see you in the next one.